Can you see that pretty well? This was a chart put together by Dr. Phil Howard at Michigan State University. He updates it every year or two. But it's a very graphic illustration of the increasing concentration occurring where? In the organic industry. So in the big yellow circles, you see the large corporation, and then the smaller oval brown circles are the formerly independent organic companies that have been bought up. But you can see that the vast majority of large companies now in the organic community are corporately owned. They are no longer independent. So why is that a bad thing? How does that boil down to becoming a problem for those of us who are concerned about the integrity of the organic community? This is California. Everyone here, I assume, is aware of Prop 37, which was a GMO labeling initiative that was on the ballot in November of 2012. Nationwide, poll after poll after poll indicates that 90% of Americans favor their right to know, and they are in support of mandatory labeling of GMO products. In the state of Maine, I was part of the effort led by a group I've been a member of for 40 years called Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association, MOFGA. We passed the second GMO labeling law in the nation after Prop 37, and I can tell you what, the people in Maine were paying attention to Prop 37 in California, and they were pissed off, and we decided if Monsanto is going to lie their way to a victory in California, we will use the legislative process to pass legislation in Maine that will require mandatory labeling. So listen to this outcome. In our state, we have 181 legislators, citizen legislators. They're part-time, they're business people, they're teachers, they're farmers. We had 135 co-sponsors for our legislation. When that bill finally passed, the vote in the House was 141 to 4. The vote in the Senate was 35 to 0. And we got our conservative Republican governor to sign the bill into law because he was forced into it. We had a poll in Maine that over 90% of Mainers supported GMO labeling, and the legislators, this was the most talked about bill in the legislature that session, and we did a great job of holding our legislators accountable, and they basically voted for it because they knew that they wouldn't be reelected if they didn't. And that's what we need to do nationwide. The way that we're going to protect organic from GMOs is to give people the tool to identify on the store shelf what products are genetically engineered, so that with that knowledge, they can make an informed decision as to whether they're going to buy a GMO version or a non-GMO version. And in a democracy, information is power. Information and transparency is the order of the day. And for the corporations like Monsanto and their ilk to be fighting this, it's illegitimate and it won't stand. And we're going to fight them and we're going to win. So, bringing this back to organic, look at that list, and you will on the left side, with the gray background, you're going to see some of the organic brands that you have been buying and bringing home thinking that these are good, solid organic brands. Those are the formerly independent brands that have been bought out by multinational corporations that have been contributing to Monsanto's side in the GMO labeling effort in California, in Washington, in Colorado, and then last fall in Oregon. And they have, in their campaigns, they feel no compulsion to stick to the truth, and they have been using lies and fear tactics, things like claiming it's going to increase the food bill by hundreds and hundreds of dollars, when in fact, we have studies that indicate the cost of changing a label it will cost more money to put a price increase into a change of the label than it would that they would receive from that price increase. So the fact is, we are talking pennies for having labeling required. And when they come up with figures in the hundreds of dollars, it is simply a manufactured attempt by former tobacco lobbyists that Monsanto and their allies have hired to scare people. And we know from experience how the tobacco industry works. It took us 30 years to get sensible regulation of the tobacco industry. Let's use that experience. These are the same arguments they're using. Let's not allow it to take 30 years to get honesty and transparency in labeling, and let the market determine where we should be spending our dollars. And the way I look at it is, a dollar spent for certified organic food benefits organic, and it takes a dollar away from Monsanto and the corporate ag that really want us to be under their thumb. And as a farmer in Maine, none of us like to be under anybody's thumb, and I imagine you are about the same way. Well, yes, some of the good guys. Right there, Amy's in Petaluma, California, one of the good guys. The right side of that list are the honorable and honest, independent organic companies that contributed to the right to know side. They were the ones that were supporting those of us working for GMO labeling. So you've got independent companies, Cliff Bar, Lundberg Rice, as I said, Amy's Kitchens, United Natural Foods, Dr. Bronner's Soaps. This is something put together by the Cornucopia Institute in Wisconsin. I'm an advisor to the Cornucopia Institute, and they put out good information. This is easily accessible on the web. What I recommend is, when you get home today, Google Cornucopia, Measure 92 and Prop 105, Your Right to Know. Print out a copy of this, print out 5 copies of this, put it in your glove compartment, put it in your wallet. Every time you go to shop, look at the list, see who your friends are, support your friends, see who the people are that are working against your right to know, and don't buy from them. Yes, we've got a question here. Okay, your thumbs up, got it. Okay, thank you. If anyone has a question, I'd be happy to take it at any time. Yes?
So the companies, the ones on the left that were bought out, and also have to change the ones on the right, which ones are publicly traded? If they're publicly traded, and do I have this right, they risk being bought out? Were all those publicly traded? Do you know?
Steve, you might know more than I, but I don't think so. I think independent companies, by and large, are not publicly traded. Steve Kreider is from Amy's Foods. Maybe he would have an answer.
Yeah, there's just a handful of the old organic companies left that were established that haven't, that had to reach it. Many had to reach outside for investment in dollars, and once that happens, they lose control. Right. So the ones that do become publicly traded many of them are on the left, because all of a sudden they've got corporate masters and lawyers and everyone who says, we can't go that way. And it competes with their conventional brand. I mean, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Welch's, Smucker's is owned now by, Smucker's owns Santa's Naturals and Canutes and Juices. So happened with Annie's. Annie's is bought by General Mills. And General Mills does not have an anti-GMO agenda, so they no longer, Annie's no longer is on the right side when they used to be. They have moved to the left, and they no longer contribute. So there's problems like that where when you lose control, the higher corporates don't allow them to speak freely or participate in the process. So the ones on the right are much more free to do that because they're independent.
Okay. Okay, so this is going to get down to some technicalities about how do these corporations put influence on the organic community. So when we passed the Organic Foods Production Act in 1989, which for the first time created a national uniform regulation of the organic industry to try to make uniform standards across the country. Senator Leahy in Vermont was the primary sponsor of that, and Representative DeFazio in Oregon was the co-sponsor in the House. Their concept was to come up with a citizen body called the National Organic Standards Board. And these are individuals that are appointed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture Secretary. Currently that secretary is Thomas Vilsack, former governor of Iowa. And when he was governor of Iowa, he was named the Governor of the Year by the Biotech Industry Association. So he has measured up to their interests. There's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of money at stake here. So Mr. Vilsack does the appointees. So these are the current members. This was a picture taken at the NOSB meeting. What are we at? We're there? 10 minutes, got it. Okay, thank you, got 10 minutes left. And they're good people, all of them, but I think we have a different vision of what is good for the organic community. My view as an organic farmer of 40 years is that being honest, putting the soil first, having integrity, not cutting corners, doing everything we can for our customers, be they seed customers or people that get some of the food that we raise. Those are traditional values within the organic community. We would never want to water down to the standards because we are trustees for everyone else in the organic community. We have experience and we want to use that experience to maintain a high level of integrity for organic. There are others within the organic community that think that growth at any level is good, that if you have to cut a few corners, it's okay because in the end, we'll be selling more organic product and that's going to be better. And I think cutting corners and watering down standards is a pretty poor way to treat loyal customers that have helped farmers like myself stay in business for 40 years. And we are going to continue to defend your interest. Our organization, OSCATA, attends every one of these NOSB meetings, and we advocate for what we believe is the historical, traditional interest of the organic community, and we're going to keep fighting. We're not going to give up. This is our community. We're not going to let the corporations take it from us. So what are some of the institutional problems? Well, the Organic Foods Production Act, it has 15 members on the NOSB. There are supposed to be 4 farmers, there's 1 consumer rep, 1 organic certifier, some processors, but I'm a farmer, so I know about these farmers. There are supposed to be 4 farmers on. In fact, in the 4 farmer positions, we have 2 farmers. The other 2 positions are being filled. One is an employee of Driscoll Strawberry, which is the largest strawberry producer in the United States and Mexico that happens to have an organic division, but the employee they have is not a farmer, it is an employee, and these are farmer positions. Another position is held by a woman in Arkansas who is an employee of an egg conglomerate in Arkansas. And these are fine people, but they have no right filling the position that Congress has ordained are supposed to be represented by farmers. Yet, when the Secretary of Agriculture has that authority to make those appointments, I think the rabble-rousers that want to stand up for integrity, they tend not to get appointed. And the terms are 5 years, so every year there's a cycling, and it should be within the next month that we'll find out who the new board members are going to be on the board to serve the next 5-year term. But it's very important that traditional, authentic, real organic have their interest represented on the NOSB. The NOSB is the body by which they take up complicated issues, and they make a determination, does this material fit traditional organic practices? If it doesn't, they vote it down. If it does, they vote it in. So you have to have good, knowledgeable people with the public interest in mind to have the system function properly. Yes, we got a question.
Yeah, I see the nominations come around, and I've been nominated for that. I noticed every time they do it, there's very few farmers on it. I mean, this has been going on for a long time.
Yes.
So I see a lot of PhDs and a lot of, mostly PhDs from different universities and stuff that get on there. And like you said, representing different companies. But real farmers, I just see them, they all have it for a long time. You were on there, weren't you?
No, I've never been on.
See? Why haven't you?
Because I farm for a living. The amount of work required, I have friends that are currently on the NOSB that have been on the NOSB going back for 20 years. It is, and almost everyone on that board except the farmers work for somebody else. So when they're putting their 40 hours a week doing NOSB business, they're being compensated. The farmer is neglecting his or her farm, and you know, so that's the difficulty. And we have made proposals to the USDA National Organic Program that there should be compensation to anyone serving on the NOSB that is not being compensated by an employer. That's fair, right? If they're willing to devote 5 years of their life to do this work, isn't it fair that they get paid for their time? Most people are if you're working for a corporation. So these are issues that we continue to fight. It sometimes seems like we're paddling upstream, but we're not going to give up. This is our community. We built it. We're not going to let the invaders take it from us. That's what it comes down to. They'll have to find that out sooner than later. You know, but we're not going away. That's for sure. So this to me is symbolic. You know, you've got symbols in our society. You got McDonald's, you got French fries and potato chips, which in my industry of potatoes, you know, that's the great bugaboo. Gummy bears. Did we work this hard to build wonderful soil so that we could have certified organic gummy bears? Yeah, it wasn't my concept of what we've been working for. This is a certified organic poultry operation in Michigan. These were aerial photographs, part of 270 aerial photographs taken by Cornucopia Institute of about a dozen different corporate operations and turned over to the NOP. You should know that there is a requirement for outdoor access among poultry. And it would be one smart chicken that could figure out how to get out of that compound. So what does this boil down to? In Maine, and I know you've got producers like this in California and in every state, we have family scale producers that do pastured certified organic poultry. They rotate their pens twice a day. The animals are outside, they're eating grass, they're getting sunshine, they're eating bugs, they're having a good life. This is what organic farming is all about. They are at an unfair disadvantage having to compete with million bird operations that should never have been certified. They do not meet the standards, they should be decertified, but we have a dysfunctional federal government that listens to the big boys. That's our problem. We're going to continue to fight. We may not win, but Wendell Berry has some good advice for us. We don't have a right to ask, are we going to win? But we have to continue to fight, and the one question that matters is our action good for the planet? And the fight against corporate invasion of organic is the fight of our lifetimes. We're not going to give up. We may not win, but when right is on your side, who's to say? And you know, this is too important. We can't give this up. So that's the conclusion of my talk. I'm happy to entertain any questions in the few minutes left. Yes?
Wait, that last thing you were talking about, isn't that up to the certifying agency? I mean, you said the federal government, but don't we have to hold some of our certifying agencies to task for
Yes.
that they're certified?
Yes, that operation, the way the certification, the question is, don't we have to hold our individual certifiers accountable? And the fact is, USDA does not do any of the inspections. They accredit certifying bodies, ACA, accredited certifying agencies. So it is agencies that have made the error in certifying operations like that. And there is a complaint procedure that if an operation has been certified and there is a challenge to the validity of that, that goes to the USDA NOP. The follow-through on this is Cornucopia sent 270 high-resolution aerial photographs, documentation of about a dozen operations that absolutely are not meeting the USDA standards for organic, and they were dismissed by the USDA staff as being of non-importance, that they didn't prove anything. And, you know, we are dealing with a stacked deck. Yes, Zen? By reaching into your wallet and going to the manager of that Costco store and saying, I'm a mom and I want organic chicken eggs that abide by the spirit and the letter of organic standards, and I want to know where these eggs are coming from. That to me is a right to know issue. You have a right to know. If they won't tell you, take your business elsewhere. Yes.
Address the role of the Farm Bureau in supporting or opposing the organics?
The Farm Bureau is a complicated kettle of fish. As a national organization, the American Farm Bureau Federation in Washington, D.C. is a force for evil. However, I'm a Farm Bureau member because our chapter in northern Maine is a progressive chapter made up mainly of Democrats. We got them to support the GMO labeling bill. I imagine that the Farm Bureau in Washington wet their pants when that happened. We took that to the state annual meeting. We got the state, Maine State Farm Bureau to support our GMO labeling bill. So you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The National American Farm Bureau outfit is supported by Monsanto money, and they're hired guns. But there are good chapters, there are good states. So we're all reformers. So we got to, you know, we got to build alliances, work as best we can. So you can't give up on anything. You got to look for allies whenever you can find them. Yes. Are we out? Okay. I'll be around if anyone wants to ask.